So, thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Her Inspired Mind podcast. I'm excited today. I've had her on once before, but I'm excited to be doing this 4-part series. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing a 4-part series with my great friend, which is like a sister to me, Stephanie Gutierrez, who is a restorative practices expert. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you. Very excited to be here today, too.
Yes, yes. We talk a lot about what you do. We talk a lot about relationships, friendships, and I'm excited to just share the knowledge that you have and the conversations that we have with everyone in the audience. So to begin, I would just like to ask you, how long have you been practicing restorative practices?
I've been doing restorative practices since 2017. I started my first training specifically with restorative justice, which is the responsive part of it. And then in 2018, I started with the restorative practices components, all of them, with the 80%, which is the proactive part on how to build relationships and strong relationships.
I love it. Love it. Love it. And you now do this, right? And you do it internationally soon, but nationally right now, right? What is the name of your company?
Yes, I do have Steph Vision is a company where I offer professional development on restorative practices. Also offer consulting for those that wants to implement restorative practices but don't know how to do it, or if they start but they don't know like what path they need to get on to really build the restorative practices with fidelity. So I've been doing trainings mostly in schools. I've been in San Francisco, Kansas City, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, obviously, New Jersey, San Jose, Malpitas, and Ontario.
She be traveling, jet setting, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, awesome. So I'm happy to be here with you. And today we're going to start by talking about how you can have effective communication in your relationship, whether you have a partner or a spouse, using restorative practices, right?
Yeah.
So let's get into that. So my first question to you is, what are the key elements of effective communication in a relationship?
Okay, something that I teach in restorative practices that is very important in any kind of relationship that you're building with is learning how to listen. We are very used to listen, but like keeping in mind what we're gonna respond. Like we don't even wait usually
Yeah.
to the other person is done to start speaking or just saying something back. And so listening and actually practicing listening is something that you need to master and really put it on practice. It's not something that you're just gonna decide to listen and that's it. I think it's a challenge for a couple to exercise what is listening and what it really means.
Mhm.
I offer in my trainings an exercise that is about listening to a partner for 1 minute without saying nothing and without making any expressions. Because sometimes you're like, yes, I'm going to practice listening, but then here you are making faces, right?
I mean,
Trying to respond in your
yeah,
head, right?
yeah,
Very responding. And so it's hard. But it is one of the keys of like having good communication in your relationship.
yeah. I love that. I know when we did a restorative practices training, someone had like an object, right?
The talking
The
piece.
talking piece. So, do you think it would be a good idea in a relationship when someone is maybe having a discussion to have a talking piece? And how does that work?
It is. So the talking piece, the person who have the talking piece in a circle, in our start to practice a circle, is the person that have the moment to talk, right? And when that person have the talking piece, no one can talk. And it's a really good practice to for the listening part, right? Because then you know you don't have the talking piece. You cannot say anything until you have it.
Even if you're exploding.
Even if you're explaining, it keeps you more calm because you know the rules. You know that you need to wait for your talking piece, and it's really good when you implement that also at home.
Yeah.
And the talking piece can be anything, like an object. I usually recommend to grab something that is like meaningful or like a stressful too. Is good to be the talking piece, but anything really can work to be it.
Awesome. I like that. So, first key, let the person talk for 1 minute and you just listen without thinking about what you want to say.
And without making faces.
Yeah.
Especially us.
Yes. We're so animated. Sometimes I think our faces talk more than what our mouth does, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you said, it's a practice.
It is.
So it's about wanting, right? I think that both partners have to also want to engage in that way. Because if you have one partner who is willing, but the other one isn't willing, then that can like greatly impact the relationship.
And I always recommend that when you decide to do this, like to implement restorative practices at home, at work, or in a school, to communicate with everyone what you are doing and the reason behind of why you decided to do it this way.
Yeah.
Because then you hear trying to act differently as you usually act, but they don't understand that, so there's a mistrust, so they can just like assume whatever they want. It usually is not that positive, right? So make sure you communicate the new way of communication that you're trying to practice your own.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Communication is key. So my next question is, how can restorative practices enhance understanding between partners in a relationship?
So in restorative practices, we have two components. The one is understanding the compass of shame, and another one is the 9 affects. And in the 9 affects, it's a theory that shows 9 response of the human being to a trigger or to a specific situation, right? And it can be from negative to positive.
Okay.
To give you an example, if we have a person or a man, like you have a man that is very used to be very demand. The woman not go out. The woman is supposed to cook. The woman is supposed to do this and that, right? You should wear something long, no shorts, stuff like that. And then you hear wearing a short, right? And he's gonna have that really negative outfit because you're triggering something that he don't like that. He doesn't feel good by you wearing that shirt, right? And you take it personal. You think it's you, or like, oh no, you're not gonna do this with me, right?
Yeah.
But instead of that, if you're more aware of why he's having that trigger, why you feel the way that you feel, be more aware of his reaction and trying to change that negative affect through a positive one. And for that, you need to listen and you need to have that communication. You need to be curious on why you feel that way. How is that making you feel? Just like ask questions so you can resolve the situation with your partner, and maybe that can change.
I love that, because I think sometimes we tend to assume or take things personally, but the reality is that we all have traumas and triggers and reasons why we do things that we do. So I love that instead of making a story up in our minds, that we know why this person is acting that way, or even them assuming that because you're wearing that, you're going to do certain things. That's a story in their mind. But then if you just share like, hey, I noticed your reaction and I'm curious, what's behind that?
And validate that emotion that he have in that moment.
Yeah.
So I understand that you're having this, you're upset. I can see that. Like, I want to know why you feel that way and how can we resolve the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love that. Learning that, because we didn't always know this, right? It's like, why are you tripping? Like, why are you coming at me? And then you get into an argument. But when you understand that the way that people act towards us has nothing to do with us, but has everything to do with them and the story in their minds, it is so transformational.
It is. It is.
So transformational. And I think it helps us to just be more at peace, right?
Yeah.
When you understand that another person's reaction towards you has nothing to do with you. So it helps you to like separate, and it empowers you.
Yeah. And as a woman, it helps you to really understand and know that and realize that you're not right all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't like that. Yeah. I'm not always right? And we need to realize that
Yeah.
they have another perspective. They think different than you, and you need to try to be empathetic, and try to be in his shoes and in his feeling and understand that.
Yeah.
And don't react over it.
Yeah. I love that. That is so true. So my next question is, right? Let's talk about, I mean, I guess you did discuss a common challenge, right? In communication between partners or spouses. Can you give me another example of what is maybe a common challenge that we might have while being in a relationship? And then how can restorative practices be applied to resolve these conflicts in a constructive way?
So there's what we call the social discipline window. And I always say that component for me, I use it as a cornerstone to know where I'm at when I'm talking and when I'm having a discussion with someone. So there's two types. There's four types of leading or dealing with situation, right? There's the neglectful part, like which is like I don't care, I'm just gonna let it go. That's when you don't even care about the relationship, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the I say neglectful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the not, which is more I see that, but I'm not gonna make any move. I'm just gonna leave it that way, and I just want to continue with the relationship. Then is the 4 box, which is it is what I say, and I'm not gonna change my mind. And then the with box, which is more about okay, I want to listen to what you have to say. I want you to listen to what I have to say, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
In order for you to resolve a conflict, you need to try to be in that with box and be more open to have that exchange of communication. That doesn't mean that he is going to be right or you're going to be right, but you guys are going to find a midpoint that is going to be satisfying for the relationship in both sides.
Okay.
And at the end, that is what you want. You don't want the other person to just be on your side and that's it, even though he's not with you or he's not agree with you. You want to find the middle, right?
Yeah.
In the relationship where both are happy with the decisions or with the end of the conflict.
Yeah. So what do you think is a key factor in that to be able to find that middle ground?
It's really to be open and listen.
Listening.
Like I say.
Again.
And reframing and making sure that you are really listening to that other person.
Yeah. Listening, it's not about communication because we can communicate, right? But if we're not listening, because if we, I think it goes back to the foundation of love. Like love is sacrificial, and sacrificing means that you put yourself down for someone else. So what I'm hearing is that in order for you to have a successful relationship, you need to sacrifice and be willing to allow that other person to express their emotions, to validate, to feel seen and heard the same way that you want to be seen and heard. Right.
It's exactly like that. And not being like, because I have people that say, I don't know how to listen to what you say. Or like, you are explaining something of why you don't agree with this or that, right?
Yeah.
And then the other person is listening to you. And at the end it says, yeah, I hear what you listen, but you don't listen. You don't listen.
But while you were talking, I was thinking about what I wanted to say.
Yes. As soon as I hear you, no, you didn't listen. You was ready to.
Yeah. And I've been there. Like, and what it causes is just, you just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like you get nowhere. And then you end up leaving the conversation frustrated, and not get anywhere.
Yes, and with restorative practices, there's always an end for that conflict, right? That's the goal.
Yeah.
How are we gonna fix this?
Yes.
And talking and listen to each other until it gets fixed, not by making one person more happy than the other one,
Yeah.
but by making both happy with the decision.
Yeah. I love that. Love, love, love it. All right. So my last question or thoughts here, if you could share some insights on how to foster emotional connection through communication, and what are some restorative strategies for helping to strengthen a bond in a relationship?
I would say the best strategy is understanding the compass of shame in restorative practices. So when someone feels shame, they can do 4 things. They can be avoidance. Your partner can just leave the house. I don't want to deal with that, right? Withdrawal. They can just go to the room and I don't want to deal with the situation. Attack someone or attack themselves, right? And those 4 reactions are part of that feeling of shame, right? And when you understand that the person is having shame in that moment and it's not something that is personal to you, then you can understand what that person comes from. It's basically the 9 affects too, but really understanding that his reaction has nothing to do with you, but with something else. There's a story behind that, right? And so it's more, I think the key is being curious always. And very important, not being judgmental.
Judgmental, yeah.
Sorry, my Sofia Vergara English.
It's okay. I got you.
Yeah. And let the people feel the way that he feel and the way that they want to feel it. That is very important.
Yeah.
Don't try. I know we don't like to get yelled, right? But at the moment, that person is feeling that he want to scream, is feeling that he want to talk and curse and do all of that, right? Because he's feeling something in that moment. Let that person feel that it's okay, right? It's okay for that person to feel that way and don't be judged by actually the partner, right? And just wait for that person to calm down, have the conversation, listening to each other. And then if you don't like that reaction, then at the end you can talk about that and say, okay, I really don't want this reaction to happen again. So how can we move forward from that reaction specifically? So you address the conflict at the end of that reaction, and then without making feel that person did wrong, you instead asking, how can I support you so you cannot have that reaction again? Because I don't feel good with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love it. I feel like so many people are going to benefit from this because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself. Like, I've been in those toxic type of conversations, even with my husband, but we've grown on how to like validate each other and his experience and him listening to my experience. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I feel like things can be restored. Hence restorative practices, like restoring relationships and keeping relationships by practicing these things, because it's a practice. Like, we didn't get it the first time, right? And it's just, if we continue to practice these things, like if you feel like you're bubbling up while your husband or your man is sharing certain things with you, and just you're like, okay, be quiet. Like for me, Becky, be quiet. Just listen to him. This is his experience. Just because he's saying it doesn't mean you have to accept it. You know, like these are
Yes, because culturally also we tend to react very quick.
Yeah.
We can go from 1 to 10 very quick, but once we understand that there's something, always there's something behind of what is happening, right? And once you know that, it is more easy to really be more peaceful environment.
Yeah.
Because then you're making a whole situation over a reaction, because you're curious and how we go from there, right?
Yeah.
So it's more easy.
It's more of responding. I feel like when you react, you're out of control. When you respond is the completely different person. And thing when you're just responding in a more, like you said, peaceful and calm way to restore and keep the relationship. That's why I think so many relationships fail, because it's that bickering, that fighting, and it's like, I want to be heard. No, I want to be heard, and nobody wants to hear the other person.
Yeah. And something that I think is very important in relationships, more than, well, there's a lot of stuff, right? But validating emotions, that is
Yes.
something that you don't see
Mm,
in every relationship.
yeah.
You don't see many people validating how the other person feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important.
Yeah.
I think it is part of the key to validate your partner's emotion and how he feel or how she feel at that moment.
Yeah, I think that's key, because when you validate, even if you don't agree with their experience, that's like, people are allowed to feel what they feel. It's like, you wouldn't want anybody to say, like, if you say, babe, I feel like I don't feel loved. What are you talking about? I do love you. Okay, you might love me, but I don't feel loved. So it's about, hey,
Yeah.
I hear you. Why do
Validating.
you feel this way? I'm curious, you know?
Yeah.
And it just changes the whole
It's
dynamic.
different. Yeah.
The whole dynamic,
It's different.
or even if someone has jealousy issues, right? Maybe they're not comfortable with certain things. It's, oh, you're drawing, like, you're overreacting, like, babe, like, okay, I see that you're upset. Like, what's going on behind this? Like, why do you feel this way? And,
Right.
just being curious about what's going on in their mind is definitely a game changer.
Right. Just being curious. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you, Stephanie, for having this conversation on restorative practices and relationships. I appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Guys, stay tuned, because we have 3 more episodes coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking on relationships with your children, relationships with your family, and also with your coworkers. So thank you for tuning in. Please share this episode with your family, your friends, your partner. Invite them to follow the podcast so they can tune in, so that they don't miss out, because 2024 is a year where I believe that we can all elevate our lives, not only personally, but also in our relationships, which then will affect how we thrive in every other part of our lives. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys on the next episode.